System and authority. Spoiler, most of you misunderstand what authority is and confuse the system with other things. This causes many injuries.
In 4 of my previous generations, my grandfathers were killed as revolutionaries, oppositionists.
It's like a survival game. Kill or be killed. What's that noise? Mom calling you? Let's see. From Mom? Mom is like a medium firm mattress. I'm looking for a man.
Sergey.
Here we go again, right? All right. I get it now. Dun 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 dun. This is Method. Show without a script. I encourage you to check your scenarios that are related to system and authority, and at what you confuse with system and authority. Let's go.
Yulia Ivlieva. Yulia Ivlieva.
System and authority. Spoiler, most of you, or to be honest, almost all of you, don't understand what authority is and confuse the system with other things. By placing completely different figures, energies, and scripts within it, which are neither system nor authority. And that, of course, causes a lot of injuries. And we're about to see which ones. Is there anyone who finds it very difficult to follow the rules, to obey? To respect your superiors? Come on. All of you? Well, all right. We'll cure you all. I need a young man. You seem perfect. I like it when men come on stage. Exactly what I need. What is your name?
I'm Andre.
Andre, you raised your hand when I asked for people who struggled to obey the system, to follow the rules. How does this manifest in you?
Mostly in my job when they task me with something.
Following orders.
Yes, but I see things differently, so I always want to do it the way I want to.
And do you?
Yes.
And how's it working out?
Of course, they reprimand me, but I do it anyway. I stand my ground.
And do you have to redo it after?
If it doesn't turn out at all the way they asked, I redo it. But usually it turns out better than they ask.
I can see that. I can see that. All right. Does it bother you in any way in your life that you do things your own way, or does it help?
I think it just comes back to you a little later, after you break the rules.
For example?
It comes back like a boomerang in small things. You get a flat tire or something like that.
Yes? Why do you make that connection, and why?
Because I break rules.
Yet you continue breaking them?
Now I try to follow the rules, obey the system, stay in my place.
Let's try saying a phrase. Say, I acknowledge and accept.
I acknowledge and accept
All those in my family.
all those in my family
And in my reincarnations.
and in my reincarnations
Who were killed by the system.
who were killed by the system,
And I give them space.
and I give them space.
I embrace that experience.
I embrace that experience
At exactly the price.
at exactly the price
At which I got it.
at which I got it,
And I give it space.
and I give it space.
Ты знаешь какие-то такие истории из своей жизни, когда система
Do you know any such stories in your life where a system of rules or procedures killed someone close to you?
убивала кого-то из близких тебе. Хорошо. А расскажи,
All right.
пожалуйста,
Tell me
про
about your
свою
tattoo,
татуировку.
please.
The tattoo is connected, I guess, with life. There is meaning to it. I'm an athlete. I've been doing water sports all my life, so it's Greek mythology. Poseidon and the rest of the Greek gods, strength, courage, bravery.
А в спорте
In
тебе
sports,
удавалось
you were able
следовать
to follow the
своему
system,
тренеру,
your coach,
правилам?
the rules?
I did follow the system, but the system wouldn't let me through.
Каким образом?
How do you mean?
I wasn't given the chance I wanted and deserved.
И ты не смог
You couldn't advance into professional
пройти
sports,
дальше в
right?
профессиональный спорт, правильно?
I could, but my goals and objectives that I had were exactly what I wasn't allowed to accomplish.
All right.
Есть ли среди вас тот здесь,
Is there anyone among you who serves
кто
the system?
служит в системе, может быть, является полицейским?
Maybe you're a police officer or in military.
Вот.
Here,
Вы
you're
вот
perfect.
прекрасны.
Yes.
Да.
Yes. Hello.
Здравствуйте. Присаживайтесь.
Sit down. I'm fine. What's your name?
Как вас зовут?
I'm Constantine.
Константин. Спасибо,
Constantine.
что откликнулись.
Thank you for responding. What do you
Чем
do?
вы занимаетесь?
At the moment, I study at the Academy of Management of the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
Класс.
Awesome.
As a student,
Какие у
What
вас
is your
отношения
relationship
с
with the
системой?
system?
Удается ли
Do you
подчиняться,
manage to obey,
принимать
accept
правила,
rules,
следовать
follow
этим
them?
правилам?
in general, yeah, I guess.
Вам комфортно в этом?
And do you feel comfortable in
Ну,
it?
в системе.
In the system.
Я имею в виду сейчас не конкретное какое-то
I mean, now a
управление,
particular kind of
тип
management,
личности
but a
человека,
personality
кому
type of a
комфортно
person who
по
is comfortable with
правилам,
rules,
графикам,
with
по
schedules,
системе, по
with the
плану.
system, with the plan, with the calendar.
I can't say I'm comfortable, but I guess I've adjusted.
Можете ли сказать, что за операция?
Can you tell me about your
Что с
operation?
ногой?
What happened to your leg?
I've had a problem with my knees since birth. My father has the same problem. So does my grandmother. It's congenital. I had multiple injuries, but I didn't go to the doctor right away because the joint is working fine and it was only dislocated, maybe from some kind of jump or a blow. It turned out that the joint was running like an engine without oil, that there was a shortage of something. There's fluid in there, and the knee started to shut down, and of course there was more and more after a while. After that, when it was already too late, when the joint felt like it was about to fall off, I went to the doctor. They did what they could there.
Перевод-
I'll
перевод
translate it into
на
human psychological language.
человеческий, психологический. В организме человека
In the human body, the system is the skeleton, the bones.
кости, суставы в том числе.
The bones and joints are
являются
part of the
системой
skeletal
скелета.
system.
И в случае, когда у вас, у
In the case when your grandmother, who else?
у кого еще?
My father.
У отца. То есть целая ветка рода.
Your father, too. So an entire lineage had knee issues.
Прям траншея, трансмагистраль.
It's like a trench or a highway, and it's a problem with the system.
Скорее всего, не зря вы выбрали эту профессию.
Chances are you chose this profession for a reason,
Поотрабатывать.
and you have a lot to work on.
Хорошо.
All right.
Давай.
Shall we?
I also have a problem with my knees, and I also served in the MIA. They told me to get 2 surgeries to repair my cruciate ligaments. My wife also told me about the system and how it works. As I started to get better, my knees started to recover.
The wife is a witch,
Русалка.
mermaid. So embarrassed.
Ладно, давайте я буду
Okay, let me give you some phrases, and then we'll see what happens.
что это будет разворачиваться.
I'll be
Я
telling you,
буду
getting you to understand the system, what it's about.
через понимание системы, о чем это.
Let's start with you.
Я признаю
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
for whom the system
for whom the system
and death
and death
were one and the same,
were one and the same,
and I give them space.
and I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace the
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the
at which I
price
got it.
at which I got it.
Я признаю
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my
who
reincarnations
survived,
who survived
thanks to being
thanks to being
что был
removed from the system,
removed from the system,
and I give them space.
and I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
и какая
And some part of me
And some part of me
strongly rejects the system,
strongly rejects the system,
and I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
And some part of me
And some part of me
serves the system,
serves the system,
я даю
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at exactly the
experience
price
at exactly the
at which
price
I got it.
at which I got it.
вообще у тебя
You generally have an interesting mix of energies.
идеально подходит
You'd make a great FSS agent.
такое
This mix of Poseidon and the system,
Посейдона. Вот
secret services in general,
секретные службы.
that's ideal.
I had an interview there,
Скажи,
Say, but it seems
but it seems
что какая-то
that some
часть
part of me
that some part of me
that doesn't
меня
respect
уважает.
that doesn't respect
Систему,
the system,
the system,
она мне портит
it spoils my plans,
it spoils my plans,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
вообще просто вы герои.
You are actually heroes because, on the one hand, you are entering this incredible vulnerability,
Невероятную уязвимость, да, и вы сейчас
and it's not only you who is going through it.
проходите, вы сейчас через себя
You are also leading a large number of people through yourself.
проходите людей. И это прям спасибо.
So thank you for that.
Me and my wife are talking. I say, she's gonna call me now.
Yes?
And she says, how come? I say, we'll see. And you did. That's what I said.
Так, может, вы
So maybe you're more aware of what's about to happen here than I am?
чем я. Я хочу запросить обратную связь у зала, что
I want to ask for audience feedback on what's going on with you, just to, first of all, take the edge off, because some people seem to be getting pretty overwhelmed. And on the other hand, to get a bigger picture of what's going on. Not just men, athletes, Neptunians, and men.
I used to play water polo too.
Спасибо вам.
Thank you so much.
Всё,
All
хорошо.
right,
До меня
I get it now. Come on,
нам нужно два
I need 2 people.
человека. Так, давай я
Let's
позову
call
тебя.
you.
Вот, вставай.
Get up.
Ты- Не, мне нужен... Я ищу
I'm looking
мужчину.
for a man.
Да, давайте. Вот.
You seem perfect.
Прекрасно подходите просто. Вы можете даже догадаться по...
You can guess from the looks, the
archetypes
archetypes of men
кто какую роль
who will fulfill which role.
Какой вы
You're so
основательный,
profound
прям
looking.
вообще. А давайте
Let's get to know each other.
Как тебя
What
зовут?
is your name?
Sergey.
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 Опять началось,
Here we go
да?
again, right?
Сергей и Сергей.
Sergey and Sergey.
Вот,
You will be a
будете
representative of that
представителем
part of the
той
audience.
части, зрителей, назовем
Let's
их
call it
так.
that. and the guys who came on stage. This archetype of Poseidon, this Neptunian part, water polo, the pool, synchronized swimming, the invisible, the inaudible, everything to do with water, with the unconscious and with the senses. This kind of archetype. This second archetype, the second Sergei, is more profound. You're Zeus.
Zeus kills?
It's a major deity in ancient Greece, so don't worry. So then something happens in the unconscious. For now, let's call that group of people, everyone who came, the two elements. Two major energies suddenly engaged in a confrontation, despite being intertwined the whole time. Water polo, sports, trying FSS, the invisible, the inaudible, the hidden, that's his domain. The unconscious, submarine crews, sailors, it's all there too. Now the question is, why is there conflict? Let's go over you. Say, I acknowledge and accept.
I acknowledge and accept
My mother.
my mother
As a figure of superior order.
as a figure of superior order,
And I give it space.
and I give it space.
My mother is big.
My mother is big,
And I'm small.
and I'm small,
And that's correct.
and that's correct.
How is your relationship with your mother?
I'm fine, but there's some similarity to what we just said, that Mom is in charge.
Technically.
Technically,
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that some part of me
that some part of me
didn't want to obey
didn't want to obey
my mother.
my mother,
And I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
How do you feel?
I'm fine.
We won't tell your mom.
All right.
But she's probably watching the episodes, I suspect.
Starting to.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
my father.
my father.
My father is big,
My father is big,
and I'm small.
and I'm small,
And that's correct.
and that's correct.
How do you feel?
I'm fine.
All right. Young woman, can I call you on stage? Yes. Stand right there. What do you think of this figure?
It's a figure.
How do you feel about it?
Nothing much.
Say, I've ruled you out completely.
I've ruled you out completely.
How do you feel?
Just worried so far. I was sitting there saying phrases and suddenly ended up on the stage.
Let me get you out of there and put you in a corner. No, you. How are you feeling?
Kind of detached, like I'm not part of it anymore.
Say, I'm not being recognized,
I'm not being recognized,
but I'm there.
but I'm there.
What is your name?
Nastya.
And your mother's?
Olya.
All right.
My mother's name is Olya.
Do you have a sister?
No, a brother. If it's a cousin, it counts too.
No, only siblings.
Just my brother.
All right. Anyway, this figure. I called it a figure of the superior order. This is the figure to whom Andrei submits. I ask him, how do you feel about this figure? He says, nothing much. He has no recognition for superior figures. All right, say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that it was to my advantage
that it was my advantage
to rule out
figures of superior
order,
and
and I give it space.
Say,
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all my reincarnations
all my reincarnations
when I was trying to show off for Zeus, and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
All right. Memories.
Memories? Which memories?
I used to like to show off.
Not much has changed since then. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
who
fought the system,
who
who was a revolutionary, who protested, and I'm giving them space.
and I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price at which I got it, and I give it space. Say, and it seems that I don't respect figures of superior order, supervisors, parents, God, and I give it space. Say, and it seems that I exclude myself from the system. And when you are excluded from a system, you cannot then take the resources of that system. It's all connected. It's weird to be a member of your own kind, part of a family, to say, actually, my relatives are nothing to me, and then ask for children or a family. A family is a system. It's a structure. And a mother is a figure of the superior order. Mother is big, and you are small. When women want to suppress their mother or disobey their mother, you disrespect the superior figure, and you start getting rid of all women in your mother's face, and of yourself as a consequence. You reject everything that has to do with the feminine. This applies to health as well. Problems come up. Everything to do with the female reproductive system. That's where you start asking for relationships. I want a man. I want a relationship. And you reject the mother. You want children, but you reject the mother. You get your children through your family. You are connected to the family through mom and dad. The mother and father are figures of the superior order. They gave you life. This denial of mother and father, the desire to be excluded from the family. It is strange to ask for family happiness, well-being, children, health, while doing so. You're destroying the very source from which you drink. You poison it and then drink from it afterwards. When you don't respect the system and don't want to obey,
то
The system won't give you
не
medals,
даст ни медалей,
promotions,
ни
or put you in
продвижения,
charge.
не поставят во главу себя. И более
Moreover, the
люди,
people who
которые
come
к
to
тебе
you,
будут приходить, они тебя
they won't
как фигуру
respect you as a
высокого порядка
superior
тоже будут
figure
уважать.
either.
Также фигурами высокого
Likewise,
порядка
managers are
являются
figures of superior order.
руководители. Ваш руководитель
Your
—
manager is a figure of
порядка.
superior order.
Невозможно
You can't show off as a
одновременно
manager
и выпендриваться на
and ask
руководителя
for a raise
и
at the
просить
same time.
повышения. Это
These are
взаимоисключающие
mutually exclusive
вещи.
things.
Давайте перейдем
Let's move to the
на уровень
government level.
государства. Когда вы в бытовых
When you
разговорах
say in everyday conversations that your government isn't very
говорите,
good,
что государство какое-то не очень, то
then
потом
don't be
не
surprised that you
удивляйтесь,
get
что вам
fines.
приходят штрафы,
You
вас
get
всё
pulled
время
over by
хотят
police all the
перекрыть.
time.
Вдруг
All of a
налоговые
sudden
и
get tax
начисления,
overcharges and
какие-то
other
истории,
stories related to
связанные с
fines to the
системой.
system.
Это
It's
всё
all the
система.
system. When you
Когда
work as
вы
an employee
работаете
in a
как
business, you are
сотрудник в
working in a
бизнесе,
system.
вы работаете в системе.
You can't say that your company is bad
Невозможно говорить, что вот моя компания
and
такая
that the
себе,
executives don't understand
руководители
anything.
вообще ничего не понимают. А потом
And then be
возмущаться, что
outraged when they don't give you a
почему
pay raise or a
же
promotion.
зарплату не повышают или не продвигают по карьерной лестнице. Нет
No
уважения
respect
к
for the
системе.
system. How is your relationship with your mother and father?
Все шикарно.
Everything's awesome.
Правда.
Really?
Скажи, я разместила
Say, I put
Я разместил
I put
свою маму
my mother
my mother
and father
and father
into systems,
into systems,
and I argue with them,
and I argue with them,
and I give it space.
и я
and I
даю
give
ему
it
место.
space.
How do you feel?
Хорошо.
All right.
All right,
Как вы себя
how are you feeling?
Чё-то у меня не
Something
сходится.
doesn't feel
Ладно,
right.
давайте я с вами
All right,
тогда
let me talk
поговорю.
to you then.
Выборочно вас
I'll ask you
поспрашиваю.
selectively.
А давай тебя.
Let's do you.
Какие у тебя отношения
What are your
и
relationships and
чувства
feelings right now?
Вот то, что
What
ты
you're
видишь,
seeing, what do you think?
Calm.
как у тебя
How is your relationship with?
I got a little restless when I got up.
Скажи, я
Say, I
признаю,
acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who were killed
who were killed
for being visible,
for being visible,
and I'm giving them space.
and I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
и какая
And some part of me
And some part of me
prefers
prefers
to keep my head down
to keep my head down
and be like everyone else,
and be like everyone else.
and I give that part space.
And I give that part space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who were killed
who were killed
for being different,
for being different.
and I'm giving them space.
And I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
Thank you so much. It's weird. I'm talking to you, and they're holding their breath.
как ты
How do you feel?
I've been very anxious from the moment you stated the topic. This is right up my alley, and it's just, my whole body is shaking.
скажи,
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my
all
family
those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my
who
reincarnations
mixed things up
who mixed things up
in my system.
In my system,
authority,
authority
and violence
and violence
are the same thing,
are the same thing,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it. In 4 of my previous generations, my grandfathers were killed as revolutionaries, oppositionists, and the issue of authority, of the state, has accompanied me since childhood.
Say, and some part of me
And some part of me
keeps fighting,
keeps fighting,
and I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
Some part of me
Some part of me
gave an oath
gave an oath
to never give up,
to never give up,
and I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
I came back a couple days ago from the Altai, where I fell off a horse. The 11-day expedition was a struggle, and all life as a struggle.
Yeah. Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who supported
the
Decembrists,
Decembrists,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
How do you feel?
Lighter.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you? Worse? How do you feel?
Anxious.
How do you like what's happening on stage?
I'm living through it.
But do you have a better relationship with the system?
I guess.
Come here. Do you see special traits in people who are at least more or less okay with the system? Gray blazer, strict lines, black dress. No bow ties or laces or something. Rather classic earrings, strict tones, small pearls. All very strict but tastefully done. Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who served the system
who served the system
or was the system itself,
or was the system itself,
and I'm giving them space.
and I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
Do you have anyone who served or worked in the system, structures, in the Communist Party, in the Komsomol, something like that?
My great-grandmother served a baron. She helped him around the house. An entire generation, and more than one, has been in service.
In the system.
Sure, in the system.
What are you doing now?
I'm in real estate.
Real estate. This is a totally Saturnian topic, real estate. Like bones in the body, in the material world. Real estate is a system, a structure. Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
figures of superior order,
figures of superior order,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
I'm comfortable.
Yes. She's very comfortable. She is very comfortable in the material world where there are rules, order, plans, hierarchy. Yes?
Yes, and I realize it within myself.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too.
When I approached the woman, I touched a little on the subject of authority, and I offered to speak a phrase. Seems like I mixed things up. In both family and reincarnations, there is a program where authority and violence are one and the same. If you realize that you have a strong response to this, that authority and violence are the same thing, then you start a series of processes. And then you need to take that authority for yourself. And you can only take it through violence. Or else it is taken from you, and then you are a victim of violence. And it's a never-ending story. When you have the authority and violence program hardwired into your system, it's the same thing. It's code for the slavery program. Either I'm a slave or a slave owner. Anyway, slave and slave owner is about lack of freedom for both parties. If you only think in terms of authority being the same as slave and slave owner, then you are thinking in that circle. You want to overtake authority so you don't have to be a slave. Then you become a tyrant slave owner. And you begin to manifest to other people as slaves. This story, it loops. It's like a game of survival. Kill or be killed. Like there's a choice to be made. Someone has to eat someone. There are two ways to overtake power. These are the ways that every person uses to overtake power. The first way of taking over is when you come in and say, I said it will be this way. Pound your fist on the table. It will be my way, I said, and everyone must obey. This is the first way. It's like a parent saying to a child, I said eat your soup. You're not going anywhere until you're done. I said eat your oatmeal. I said go to bed. The parent shows authority to the child, often through the lash, in a way. Something karmic came up, through the lash, in a way. When the kid grows up and becomes some 30-year-old big guy, big man in the military or something, a big burly guy or a grown independent woman managing real estate, then no longer can a parent show authority over their child by saying, okay, daughter, did you call me to say you made it home? Although some of you are still calling your mom back to let her know you made it home and you're 35 years old. Yes? Your thing? You're my furry little bunny. When it does not work this way, through suppression, there is a second way to take over. And it sounds like this. Who in the family has it worse? They have the power. So if your mom can't control you through, I said to go to bed at 9. Or, I said, finish your soup. You can't go anywhere until you finish it. She starts to exercise power through, I have high blood pressure. I feel so lonely when you don't call me. I'm poor and unhappy, and you live your beautiful life. And who will think of me? And there's no one to clean the house. Whoever has it worst in the family has the power. There, members of the family can compete to see who feels worse. One can be like, my pension is too low. And another says, and I have a sore leg. Okay, you've got a pension and a sore leg, but I've got a real problem. They start comparing problems in order to take over. The victim has an abuser, an aggressor. Maybe not an abuser, more of an aggressor. The victim takes authority for itself. That's the kind of weird mechanics I'm talking about. Using a simple example, to those of you who have living grandmothers, if your grandmother suddenly has a heart attack, the whole family starts circling around her. Then as Grandma says, so it will be. Or your mom. But then a strange mechanic kicks in, that the adult generation, in order to get attention and take over, unconsciously wants to feel bad in order to be noticed. Like a child when they don't want to go to school and take tests, and want mom not to go to work and make tea with jam for them. They get sick, right? Mom, can I skip school? We'll get a note saying we're sick. Child says, oh, 37.5 degrees body temperature. No big deal. At least mom is there, taking over through being a victim. One of my teachers, Leonid Borisovich Talpas, taught me to notice this. And it was amazing to me when he first showed it to me, and now I'm showing it to you. He asks a very simple question to the group. Show of hands. Whose mom is feeling bad? Like really bad? Heart, pension, something else? And show of hands, whose mom is feeling really well? Happy, fulfilled, doesn't ask for anything. Everything is great, she's busy with her life. The rest of you are undecided, right? They're like, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Authority. There's a lot of confusion about the whole authority and the system. There are so many distortions associated with this. If I ask you to describe an association, what the system is to you, many people will start writing something related to tyranny, prison, injustice, these things. There's that perception, right? That authority and the system is something discomforting. And what's interesting is that I feel like this is the first time it's even been mentioned. It's like it's not something we're supposed to talk about. We're not supposed to reveal it in any way. It was a revelation to me about systems. Systems are businesses. Systems are structures, like a Rubik's Cube. Hierarchy, generic system. They're like crystal lattices if you look at it. It has come to my attention that the system itself wishes no harm to anyone. It doesn't have that in its tasks at all. The system is needed to organize you and me with each other. Imagine traffic rules. They have to be obeyed. The rules, the signs, the cameras, the fines. It would be more convenient for whoever wants to drive how they want to drive. But that wouldn't be safe. If you live alone in a 10-kilometer radius in a county, you can do it without systems and without rules. You live your life the way you live it, as long as you're not in contact with anyone else. Once there is a second person, then there is interaction. There is a need to define the rules of interaction and security. Traffic safety. If everyone on the road drove the way they wanted, there would be a lot more accidents and traffic wouldn't move at all. It would be impossible for so many people in the same area to interact with each other. The same in allocation of resources. We couldn't live without the rules, the order, the structure, the hierarchy of these. It's like a plumbing system. In plumbing, there are pipes connected into a system, where the pressure goes, where the hot water goes, the cold water, where the sewage goes, and where the clean drinking water goes. Imagine mixing all the pipes with each other in a chaotic pattern and just walling them in. Nothing will function there. I understand now that a system is simply needed in order to organize the interactions of a group of people with each other. When there's more than one person. I had an experience. I went to Japan in the spring. Japan is a very systematic country in its own right. There are a lot of rules and routines out there. So picture this, small islands. They are really small in area. 75% of this territory is occupied by mountains. They don't live in the mountains, they live in the lowlands. So of the small islands, 75% is uninhabited. Only 25% is residential, and there are 127 million people living there. 127 million. If all of Tokyo's residents were let outside, they wouldn't be able to physically fit while standing on the ground. Tokyo has so many floors going up and so many floors going down. There's whole underground cities. So if it weren't for the system and organization rules, it would be physically impossible to fit so many people in such a small area. The systems and structures themselves do not have the task of punishing someone, killing someone, depriving someone of something. But if there are rules and order, but some character or element appears who says, everyone wakes up at 9 a.m. and I'm against it. I'll wake up at midnight. Or, everyone drives one way and I'll take the oncoming lane. Then the system, in order to keep this balance, needs to somehow harass this element that is against it, to bring it back, to avoid confusing tap water with sewage. And mom and dad don't have the task of making their kids feel bad. If your mother says, eat soup at dinner, not a bunch of candy, then it contains the meaning of safety for the child. Safety. The system provides safety and resources. Safety and resources. But when it's mixed up in the psyche that Mom is telling me to eat soup at dinner, she's definitely against my freedom and just wants something wrong, you form a lot of distortions. And you are then mixing things up. And then it becomes difficult for you to respect your bosses, to respect the rules, to respect order. Many people have a confused relationship with authority, that supposedly power is violence, and people only perceive it that way. But authority is also a huge responsibility, the huge responsibility of distributing resources to a large number of people. It's like if a woman has 4 children, and she assigns that those 2 children will eat between 1 and 1:30 p.m. because the kitchen is small, and those 2 between 1:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. because all 4 of them can't fit in this kitchen. She shows her authority in that. But then it feels like you are being disadvantaged. How come? Why am I obligated to eat at 1:30 p.m.? Or, why does he have to eat like this and I have to eat like this? There is nothing wrong with the authority itself or the system, just like there's nothing wrong with your mom or dad. There is a great deal of distortion and confusion. So in order to live this ordinary human life, it's important to be integrated into the system, into the rules, to obey the traffic rules for safety, to fit into the system and not like my family is separate and I'm special, and then ask for children for myself. Or to come to a man and say, listen, man, of course you are beautiful, and I want a family with you. But your last name is kind of weird, and your parents are horrible people. I don't want to know them. It's extremely weird, but that's what people do, and that's what a lot of people do. You enter the system and start showing off that you don't like the last name, and the parents are wrong and ugly. They gave life, actually. Your parents to you, and the man's parents to him. And when you start declaring that his parents are somehow bad, or that your parents are somehow bad, it's utterly foolish to expect that you can build your own system, your family with your children. Somewhere there will be a disruption at the level of relationships, energies, and the ability to receive resources. The best growth is at the bottom. The best growth is at the bottom. When you come into the system, first as a junior assistant to a junior manager, you serve in your job as the system. Then you become a manager, then a senior manager. And you have a supervisor, and he is a figure of the superior order to you. You don't jump ahead of it by saying, I know better, I'm smarter, more qualified anyway, or anything like that. And then there is a chance that you will be promoted. And someone grows from a junior manager, a junior assistant, to the owner of the company. But this growth is only physically possible from the bottom, when you respect the system, and the rules at every step.
и правила. Но бывали реально
There have actually
случаи,
been
когда
cases where people have been
люди
killed
убивали
for it.
себя. Бывало
Many
всякое.
things happened.
Как это, опыт
The
прошел,
experience is
осадок
over,
остался.
but there's still bad taste left.
Как ты себя чувствуешь?
How do you feel?
Хорошо.
I'm fine.
Как ты себя
How do you feel?
Well, too.
Видишь ли ты какие-то, может быть,
Do you see any patterns in your life
закономерности
from what I
в своей жизни
described?
из того, что я
Relationship with the
рассказывала?
system, with mom, with
Отношения с
dad,
системой, с мамой, с папой,
respect for
уважение
parents,
к
for
родителям, к
supervisors.
руководителям.
Either way, everyone sees some common ground. So you were talking about everything, everyone has something. In any case, without the system, we can neither exist nor develop. That's the way the world is now. It's not just in our country, it's in other countries as well. It can't be any other way. Somewhere more, somewhere better, somewhere worse. We live here, so we follow our laws. Why sit there and argue that it's bad here and good there? Well, I guess it has its place too. So if someone doesn't like something, let's go together, especially now the opportunities are opening up.
Yes,
Спасибо тебе большое.
thank you
Просто
so much.
интересно,
And it's interesting that it's the system itself
это
that says
сама
this.
система говорит.
Well, that's just the way it
Потому
is.
что я тебя
Because I called you as a
назвала
system
как
figure,
систему.
yes.
Да.
You know that's true. Everything is open now. Go out and do something.
Да.
Everything is even created for this purpose.
Вот.
Here,
Скажи,
say
я вам,
I to you.
I, to you,
Give resources.
give resources.
если
And
вы
if you
умеете
can
ими
manage them.
управлять,
And if you can and want to manage them, some don't want to.
да,
Yeah.
да.
Yeah,
Someone just wants to talk in the evening, follow some topic of conversation, and doesn't want to change anything.
just pretending, putting on some kind of mask.
История с управлением
The resource management
ресурсами
story is a
— это
very
очень
complicated
непростая
story.
история. Это вам кажется, что вот да дайте
You
мне,
think,
да я
give it to
всё,
me, I'll solve everything.
всё
I'll
решу,
distribute
всё
everything.
распределю, всё там будет,
Everything will be
отлично.
fine.
Но, скорее всего, многие из вас
But chances
не
are,
могут,
many of you can't
управлять
manage the
теми
resources
ресурсами,
you have
которые у вас
right
есть
here
прямо
and now.
здесь, сейчас. Каждый из вас
Each of you
зарабатывает
makes some money.
Вот представьте,
Imagine
что
that
вы
each of you is on
каждый
your
в
own, and there is a
отдельности, и
system.
есть система. У вас есть
You have a housekeeping
охота,
system.
там, не знаю, система уборки.
You organize things in your
Вы
house in
как-то
some way.
организуете в своем доме.
There's a food
Есть
department,
пищевой
a
отдел,
transportation supervisor,
начальник
a
транспортного
taxi,
центра,
let's
там,
say.
такси, допустим. У
You have a
вас есть
financial
финансовое
division,
подразделение, ваш кошелек,
your
ваши
wallet,
счета.
your
У
accounts.
вас, у каждого, неважно, чем вы
Each of you, no matter
занимаетесь,
what
вы
you
человек,
do,
вы
you
живете
are a
в
human
социальном
being.
мире,
You live in
у
a
вас у
social
каждого
world.
есть
You each have
отделы и
departments and
подразделения.
divisions.
Посмотрите, что у
Look
вас
at what you have
внутри
going on
творится с
inside with your
вашими
resources.
ресурсами. Есть ли у вас
Do you have
ресурсы в
resources in your
вашем
finance
финансовом
department?
подразделении?
Do
Умеете
you know
ли
how
вы
to direct,
направлять,
allocate, and
распределять
reallocate
или
resources?
распределять ресурсы? Что у вас происходит
What do you
в
have going on in your
системе
housekeeping
уборки,
system?
да? Что у
What's
вас
going on in
в
your tech
техническом отделе
department?
происходит? Просто
Just look
посмотрите
at these
на
areas
сферы
of your
своей
life.
жизни, на сферы своей
Areas
жизни.
of your life.
Здесь не нужно фантазировать, кто
No need to
лучше, кто
fantasize here
хуже.
about who is
Просто
better, who is
основываясь на
worse.
результате, на том, что
Just
у вас есть
relying on the
прямо здесь и
result,
сейчас, посмотрите,
on what you have right here and
что
right
у
now.
вас в
Look at what
вашем
you have in your
подразделении,
departments,
что у вас
how your
транспорт,
transportation is,
насколько у вас
how well your marketing
отдел
department is doing.
маркетинга работает. Ну, я
I'm metaphorically
называю
calling the
отдел
marketing
маркетинга,
department.
да, в обычной
In
жизни вы
ordinary
называете
life, you call it
проявленностью.
manifestation.
Что у вас с проявленностью?
What is going on with your
Что у вас с
manifestation?
коммуникацией?
What is going on with your communications?
Отдел безопасности.
The security department, let's say.
Что у вас
What's going on with your
с отделом
education,
образования,
training
обучения?
department?
Что там
What's in there?
находится? Как вы
How do you
распределяете
allocate
ресурсы?
resources?
И
And do you
распределяете
allocate them
вообще?
at all? How do you feel?
Чувствуешь?
I'm good.
Awesome.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much. How do you
Что
feel?
чувствуешь?
Better now. I think I'm still getting a lot from Nastya, and I'm living through something of my own right now. I really understand so much of the feedback, and I realize that I just really wanted to ask a question, if I may. Why did you choose me as a figure? I'm just trying to find some higher order answers for myself. What's my problem?
You have stern facial features, very graphic, systematic, and I decided to put you as a superior figure. If you were anything like the girl in green, I wouldn't put you as this figure. In other words, the energy that your appearance and clothing conveys, it fits. I'll ask you to sit down. Let's do you. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who broke the rules,
who broke the rules,
and I'm giving them space.
and I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
that I already paid.
that I already paid.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who use their authority
who used their authority
in excess
in excess
against other people,
against other people,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
All right.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my
who
reincarnations
stole resources
who stole resources
from the system,
and
I'm giving them space.
I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
All right.
How are you feeling? You looked overwhelmed when I mentioned stealing from the system. Like you couldn't live unless you stole from someone. Say, I acknowledge and
I
accept
acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who survived
who survived
through stealing,
through stealing,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
When in times of famine or in hard times for your family, your parents, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers had to steal in order to bring food home to their children, in order to survive. So a survival program formed, saying that supposedly you can survive only in this way and no other way. Yes? How are you? Fine?
Yes, fine.
How are you? Someone is feeling overwhelmed. What's going on? The men are doing well. The men are hanging in there. How are you feeling?
It's strange that I'm in this place. Because I should be there, I embody myself there.
Yes?
Because I've spent my whole life running from the system, fighting the system. So I'm standing there like Zeus, formal leader, raid leader. But I've always been this gray eminence, someone second, like Mom. I had a complicated relationship with my father, so I worked for a power company a long time ago. Everyone was wearing dress code, and I wore orange shoes. I mean brown. Everyone took 3 years to write a thesis at the institute. It took me 6. So I'm always showing off in life.
Different.
Different. I then moved into the business on my own, just stopped everything and started it 10 years ago. It took me 10 years to realize that you have to build a system in business.
And how's it working out?
Only started realizing this in the last year. Because of this compulsion, I realize that I've already paid dearly with aches and pains, insights that I'm done fighting.
I used to argue a lot.
Argue, yes. I can already understand the bosses I had. They're probably going to be watching, or not. I won't name how, but I really didn't understand them at the time. I realize now that the system is the system.
Turns out that by stepping into the role of that boss, you start to get a sense of why what they were doing was fair, necessary, and important.
Yes.
Realistically, arguing with the system is like a kid with his mom. I want candy. No, eat soup. Some kids start stealing money out of mom's wallet. Also a rebellion.
Every manager I had in the power company, in science, in the institute, I always fought with them. I mean informally, like this, who is whom. I was subconscious, who's smarter, who's more efficient, having a competition in the wrong way.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I needed
many
years,
very many years,
to start respecting
to start respecting
my superior, and I give it space. Cool. How do you feel?
I have a mirror situation in that I was employed in the business system for 15 years. I rose up from the very bottom, from advertising manager to top management, and I always did it very quickly. And the system has always given me resources. I've always wondered how that happens. And within the system, I created departments, projects. There were projects of a nationwide scale, big, wonderful. Then one day I devalued the system, got out of it. It's been an interesting 5-year period of transformation. Now I'm building my system and creating my projects. I've already switched to having a huge appreciation for what I had back then. And now I realize that if it wasn't for that system, I wouldn't be creating, and I wouldn't be building what I'm building right now.
Yes.
And this is a straight-up mirror situation. And in terms of feelings, in the beginning it was like I was in the wrong place. It's like my legs are there, but my head is turning off, in a kind of haze. At some point, for some reason, the words concrete wall came to mind. When I look at the guys, it's like a concrete wall when they say things to me. That's how it feels.
Awesome. Your parents don't mean you any harm. The system doesn't mean you any harm. Rules and routines are very necessary for people to interact with each other. It happens that people, individual units, not the whole system, individual units, when they get into a part of this system, to some position, they get confused about what their function is. It's like having a grocery store, and there's a cashier at the register. And they're like, cool, money. Their job is to sell, give change, receive, and count. This trade goes through them. But all that product in the store, it doesn't belong to the cashier. All that money in the cash register, it doesn't belong to the cashier. They're just a unit there, a function, a person who performs a task throughout the grocery store.
Есть ли в магазинах кассиры, которые
Are there
воруют
cashiers in
деньги на
stores who
кассе?
steal money at the
100%
cash register?
за
Yes,
многие
definitely.
лета
In many years of the
торгового
vending business
бизнеса
and the
и торгового
grocery
бизнеса
business,
такое есть.
there is definitely such a
100%
thing.
такое есть. Но означает
But
ли
does
это,
that
что
mean that grocery
продуктовые
stores are
магазины
wrong
кассиры
somehow?
не такие? Нет, они выполняют задачу
No,
кормить
they fulfill
людей,
the task of feeding
да,
people,
поставлять туда товары и продукты,
supplying goods and
чтобы вы,
products there,
приходя
so that when you
утром,
come in the
могли
morning, you can buy bread,
купить
milk,
молоко
and
и
food for your
сварить кашу
children.
своим детям. Вот здесь то же
It's the
самое.
same here.
Но и в случае, если
And in case the
владелец
store owner
магазина
realizes that there's a
понимает,
shortage
что
or
есть
something wrong with the
недостача
goods,
или что-то
a
не
representative
то с
of the
товаром,
system will come to the
то
person
человек и единица,
and the
которая
unit
отвечает за эту
responsible for this
функцию,
function and say,
к нему придет представитель
let's see
системы
what's
и
going
скажет,
on
давай-ка
here.
разберемся, что тут у тебя происходит. Система
The system is
всегда
always more
важнее
important than each
каждого
individual member
отдельного
of the system.
члена системы. Родовая
The
система
family is always more
целиком
important than
всегда
each
важнее,
individual
чем
in it.
каждый отдельный человек в ней. Система — это
The system is a greater
большая
entity
суть,
than each
чем
individual
каждый отдельный
person.
человек. Я сейчас, может,
I
странные
may be
вещи
saying
говорю,
strange things right now,
но
but
любая
any
система
system is
всегда
always
больше,
bigger
чем
than you are.
она всегда
It
больше.
always
У нее
is.
всегда больше ресурсов,
It
чем
always
у
has
вас,
more resources than you
у
do.
любой системы.
Any system
У нее
has
больше
more
ресурсов, чем
resources
у вас.
than you do.
Если вдруг вы строите
If you build
свое
your perception of the
восприятие
business
системы
system and your
бизнеса,
boss is
что
wrong or
начальник какой-то
something,
не такой или еще что-то, по опыту своего
and your
взаимодействия с
experience with a
кассиром,
cashier who
который
steals
ворует
money at the cash
деньги на
register,
кассе, то у вас
you
возникает
develop a
искаженное
distorted perception
восприятие,
that
что якобы
supposedly the
вся
whole
система
system is like
такая.
that.
Но это же
But that's
неправда.
not true, is it?
Вот этими примерами
With
я
these
вам хочу
examples, I want to show
показать,
you,
прям вот знаете, пыль смахнуть
to brush off the dust from the many distortions within
множество
people
искажений внутри людей
regarding
относительно
systems,
систем,
businesses, power,
бизнесов,
and the people
власти
involved.
и людей, к этому относящихся. Это все необходимо,
This is all
для того,
necessary in order for
чтобы
us to interact with
мы
each other.
могли с вами взаимодействовать.
Even
Даже
you,
в
by
пределах
coming to
в
this
этот
room,
зал есть система. Здесь
have
тоже
entered into a
есть
system.
система. На
There's a
съемке
system
этого
here,
шоу
too.
вам проданы билеты. У каждого есть
You've been sold
стул,
tickets to this show.
номер этого стула,
Everyone has a
номер
chair
ряда,
and the number of that chair,
категория
the row number,
билета.
the ticket category.
И это тоже
And that's a
система.
system, too.
Что вы приходите к определенному времени,
The fact that
и
you show
после
up at a
этого
certain
времени
time,
вас
and
перестают
after that time they
пускать
stop
в зал.
letting you into
Это
the
тоже
audience.
система, и это правило.
That's a system, too. And those are the
Вы
rules.
ходите в перерывы, это
The fact
правило.
that you go out on breaks is also the rules. Do you understand?
Да, это
It's all
всё
systems.
система. Попробуйте вот для себя
Try to
различить,
recognize, to reconsider your relationship with authority,
прям пересмотреть свои
with
взаимоотношения
authority as a figure,
с властью как фигурой.
not with authority as an
Не с властью как,
association.
ассоциация, что у вас там с
When you
властью,
have with authority,
с
with
маминой
mom's
властью,
authority, with authority over
властью над
yourself,
собой, с
with
властью
authority
над
over
другими.
others.
И
And your
взаимоотношения
relationship with the
с
system.
системой. В первую очередь,
First and foremost, with your family and your company,
и с
the
компанией,
business where you
бизнесом,
serve.
где вы служите. И попробуйте себя
And try to feel
ощутить
part of
прям
the
частью
system,
системы,
part of
частью
society.
общества. Занимаете ли, вот говорят, семья — это ячейка
They say that the family is the unit of
общества.
society.
Занимаете ли вы эту
Do you take this position as a unit?
в
Are you in your
ячейке? Вы там на
place?
своем месте? Или вы в своей
Or are you in your
голове,
head as a president who
президент,
allocates
который
resources you don't
распределяет
have?
ресурсы, которых у вас нет? Ну, то есть вы на своем месте, в
So are you in your
своей
place,
встроенной
in your own
системе
system,
или
or
нет?
not?
Вы когда с мужем
When you and your
отношения
husband are
строите,
building a
муж и
relationship,
жена,
husband and wife,
некоторые женщины
some women like to
любят
hand out
советы
advice to their
своим
husbands.
раздавать. Или мамам советы
or giving
раздавать,
advice to
или
moms or
спасать
saving
мам.
them.
И вы тогда
You are
нарушаете
then breaking the
систему.
system.
Ваша
Your
мама
mom's
большая,
big,
вы маленькая.
you're small.
Что
What's
это?
that noise? Mom calling you?
А давай
Let's
проверим.
see.
От мамы?
From mom?
Скажи, я признаю
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
my mother,
my mother,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
This is a system.
Я из системы
I'm pulling the mom you've been arguing with all this time out of the system.
говорил все это время.
How old is your mom?
Лет.
46.
46.
Есть у меня тут
Do I have any beautiful 46-year-old moms here?
мамы, женщины? Слушайте, а я вот очень вас хочу
I really want to call you,
Руку не поднимайте.
even though you don't raise your hand.
Идите сюда.
Come here.
Вот смотри, фокус.
Look, Andre.
Андрюш. Вот система.
This is the
Это
system.
система. Я из нее
I'm pulling your mom out of it. This is your mom's figure.
Как маму зовут?
What is your mom's name?
Olga.
Albina,
А маму как
And what's your
зовут?
mom's name?
Olga.
Хорошо. Как
All right.
тебе-
How do you like your mother figure?
Доброе.
Kind.
I have 2 sons.
All right.
Как вы себя
How are you feeling?
Anxious.
А у тебя мама добрая?
Is your mom kind or like,
Или такая...
She's kind, but she can be different, too.
Да?
yes?
Сейчас.
1 second. So is she kind or not?
Generally, yes.
Чаще.
Mostly?
Доброе.
Kind.
Gentle.
Среднее.
Average.
Средний-
Average.
Как матрас.
Like a mattress.
Мама как матрас.
Mom is
средней
like a medium
жесткости.
firm mattress.
Ты в детстве, когда был
When you were a
маленьким,
kid, who were you
кем было
afraid of
страшно
when you got a low
учиться
grade
и
or were
опоздать
late
домой?
home?
Mom, I guess.
А перед
And what
мамой?
about your dad?
Dad was more relaxed about it.
То есть папа
So
не
Dad didn't set the rules of the
устанавливал
system,
правила
the boundaries.
системы границ.
It was just different with him. He didn't really scold or punish me for it, and my mom didn't punish me for my grades either. They just understood that I had my own road to travel, not an academic one.
Скажи, я признаю,
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that in my family,
that in my family
there were no rules set.
there were no rules set.
я не
I felt no boundaries,
I felt no boundaries,
so I kept probing them,
so I kept probing them,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
All right.
Как тебе
How do you like your mother figure?
Like a teacher.
учителя это
Teachers are
фигуры
superior
высокие.
figures too.
I'm a teacher.
What?
Чего?
Physical education.
И как
What do
тебе
you think of
твои
your goons?
балбесы?
Everyone is good in different ways.
But everyone is good, right?
In different ways,
Есть
yes.
такое, что
Is there such a thing as your students probing your boundaries?
прощупывают твои границы?
Definitely.
Часто
Does this happen a lot?
бывает?
Not a lot, but they do try to probe. Can they do something or not? Can they say something or not? Anyway, it does happen.
И как?
And what do you do?
I show my boundaries.
Класс.
Awesome.
Cool.
Скажи, я
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all teachers
all teachers
who participated in my life,
who participated in my life,
and I give them space.
and I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
вот эта тема,
This theme of
уважения
respecting
к
teachers as
учителям,
superior
к
figures.
фигурам высшего порядка, она
It's
важна,
important that if you
что
don't
если вы
respect
не
your
уважаете
teachers,
учителей своих, то потом к
then the
вам
students
приходят
come to you.
ученики, они не
They don't
уважают
respect
вас.
you.
Это раз.
That's the first thing.
Второе, что
The second thing is that you begin to experience feelings called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you ask yourself if you have the right to teach others or tell others what you do. Maybe you're not enough in some way. If you get imposter syndrome in you, are there those who have imposter syndrome? Congratulations. Your passage is through respect for teachers. When you disrespect the teacher, you get that disrespect, the devaluing of the teacher, returned to you through an inner sense of devaluing yourself. You don't respect yourself afterwards either. This design is self-sustaining. You are walling yourself off from the world. If you are not ecological to your teachers, the world will not let you in, but it will let imposter syndrome into you. You yourself cannot take the step to manifest because you do not accept teachers. When you start accepting teachers and their contributions, become from a position from the bottom. Mom, teachers, the system, the boss. Then you can take it from a lower position. Then you don't have imposter syndrome. How do you feel?
All right.
Awesome. How's the mom feeling?
I'm relieved.
Awesome. All right, Mom can go then. Thank you so much. Mom and Dad. Interesting pattern. Whatever the topic, it often settles on Mom and Dad. Virtually every job has Mom and Dad. System and God, Mom and Dad. Respect for people, respect for yourself, Mom, Dad. Generic system, Mom, Dad. Partners, relationships with them, Mom, Dad. So there's a lot to talk about. Mom and Dad. How's it going there? How do you feel? What is it they don't let Poseidon say?
I'm now feeling both calmer and more relaxed, and I generally feel more of myself. Because what was happening in the beginning, something was out of place.
Here, say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations who wanted to feel free,
who wanted to feel free,
and I give them space.
and I give them space.
But it seems
that
I learned to feel free
only
only when I learned to respect the system,
when I learned to respect the system.
and I give it space. I mean, look, this is such a Neptunian, Poseidonian part of this floating, flowing, boundless unconsciousness. And he says, now I'm more free, now I'm...
And there was an unbelievable stiffness. It was very hard to breathe, as if immobilized.
The passage to freedom is not found where you exclude yourself from the system. Here, I'll escape the system, I'll be free. No, the passage to freedom is found through learning to serve the rules, obey and respect the hierarchy. When you are in a system and you can organize yourself as a system, build other systems, even agree on some small project with a neighbor, go to a barbecue. This is also organizing a system. Shopping, cooking, organizing the place, cleaning up the trash, transportation issues, everything, every single unit. It's all a system. When you learn to be in it and submit to it, then you come out into the real freedom to create anything at all. But creating anything is not the same as creating something weird. It's like I can create new worlds. I can create new systems. I can create new creative projects. I can create, and I can exercise my creativity in that. That Neptunian energy. And to feel free there. A person can feel free when they know how to organize themselves. To organize themselves. If you're feather-brained, getting lost, forgetting where your key is, it's not about freedom. Taking off into the woods and running away from everyone is not about freedom. Freedom begins where you learn how to stand up in the system, cut right in, and take your place. When you're a cool cashier first, then you're a cool store manager or a cool merchandiser, then you're a cool store manager, then you're a cool CEO, then you build your businesses. And that's what freedom is all about. But you will still be embedded in the system. Any creative project, for example, if you want to put a hut near the forest, you need permission, regulations, building codes, builders, schedules. In any creative endeavor, if you want to put a painting somewhere, you'll need the owner of that wall, a visitation schedule, work regulations, ordinances, permission to do it. The whole world is made up of it, absolutely the whole world. But when you don't understand it, you think, I have my own rules. Then the system grinds you like through a meat grinder. But that's what the whole world is made up of. And true freedom is found there, not in your abdication of the system. Say, I acknowledge and accept.
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family.
All those in my family.
And in my reincarnations.
And in my reincarnations.
Who became a hermit.
Who became a hermit.
A monk.
A monk.
And renounced.
And renounced.
The worldly life.
The worldly life.
And I'm giving them space.
And I'm giving them space.
I embrace that experience.
I embrace that experience.
At exactly the price.
At exactly the price.
At which I got it.
At which I got it.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
How are you feeling? Fine? Well, we'll be done soon enough. We're moving along. How are you doing?
Great.
Awesome.
Let me add, I started a month and a half ago. I'm seeing a counselor. The relationship with my dad came out, and the disrespect for teachers. We worked it all out, worked through it. In just 2 weeks, I had such a drive in business, in life, projects, ideas. The most interesting thing is, I got a teacher in my line of work, in my field, 15 years younger than me. It was a challenge, but I accepted it. Just a phenomenal result. I'm very grateful to him. We're still working together.
Awesome. Thank you. When you have your place in the hierarchy, being ranked lower in that hierarchy is not the same as being humiliated. You're the one who has it mixed up in your head that being inferior or being second equals being humiliated. No. Just because someone is a junior professional and someone is a senior professional doesn't make the junior professional humiliated. From the wife being in second place in the system, the wife's place is second place. The husband's first place. It does not equal humiliation of the woman. It's different.
Но у многих перепутано это в головах.
But many have it mixed up in their heads that being second equals being dead.
Скажи, я признаю
Say,
и
I
принимаю
acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and
all
accept
those in my family
all those in my family
and in my
and
reincarnations
in my reincarnations
who died
for
being second,
being second,
and I give them space.
and I'm giving them space.
And some part of me
And some part of me
strives at all costs
strives at all costs
to be the first,
to be the first,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that
at
experience
exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
Before, in my system,
Before in my system,
it was that.
it was that
Either I'm first
either I'm first
or dead,
or dead,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
Anyone have the same thing? Either I'm first or dead? And then your whole life is a rivalry, a competition.
И тогда вы не приемлете
And then you don't accept siblings, or you suppress them.
либо подавляете их. И тогда, если это
And then if it's hardwired into your system, you think, why could you have one child but not another?
родить смогли, а второго не можем. Потому что в системе есть
Because there's a
код.
code in the system that the second one is equally
Второй
dead.
равно мертвый. Скажи, я
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my
who
reincarnations
killed their brothers and sisters
who killed their brothers and sisters
for the throne.
for the throne.
And only one of us
кстати,
And only one of us
только один
could have been emperor.
could have been emperor,
And the second must have
and
died.
the second must have died,
And I give it space.
and I give it space.
у кого есть вот
Who
этот
has this
код,
code
что
right here? That I'm either the first, the supreme, the competition,
и вы не выдерживаете
and you don't
такое.
hold out for second place.
Там во втором месте может
There,
быть
in
завязана
second place,
смерть.
there could be death.
Если там завязана смерть, то вам
If there's
даже
death there, you can't even imagine being second.
возможности быть вторым.
And to be second,
А
there's
чтобы
nothing
быть
wrong with
вторым,
that.
в этом нет ничего плохого. Это классное место.
It's a great
И
place.
классное
And being
место.
third is fine too.
У
Some of you have
кого-то
3
трое
kids,
детей,
some of you have
у
4. There's nothing wrong with being the third child or the fourth child,
ребенок или
or your
ваши дети.
children are someone's second child, someone's third child.
Первая
First
жена,
wife,
вторая жена,
second
третья
wife,
жена,
third wife,
бывшая жена, бывшая
ex-wife, ex-first, or ex-second.
первая. Но когда
But when being
второй
second is
равно
equal
мертвый,
to dead,
то там уже просто горы
then there you will do
сменяются,
anything to
во
become the
что бы то ни
first.
стало стать первым. Скажи, я
say, I
признаю,
acknowledge and
принимаю
accept
I acknowledge and accept
all orders
all orders
of this world.
of this world.
Everything is right in it,
Everything is right
and I
in
give it
it,
space.
and I give it space.
как себя чувствуешь.
How do you feel?
All right,
Awesome.
Прокачиваюсь.
better.
Но я чувствую,
I
что
feel
вот
good,
это
but it's a
хорошо,
little
оно
different than the
другое,
first
чем
good.
первое хорошо. Я уже начинаю
I'm starting to understand a
немножко
little bit about the
разбираться в твоих
gradation of your
хорошо.
good.
Отлично.
Great.
Класс.
Awesome.
Поживите с этим.
Live with it.
А,
Digest the
переварите
experience.
этот опыт. Возможно, кому-то потребуется,
Some may need to revisit this video several times.
кто-то его пересмотрит раза 3, 5.
Some will revisit it 3 or 5 or 8 times, and each time they will watch it as something new,
С новыми
with new
осознаниями,
realizations and lived experiences of power,
связанными с властью,
the
системой,
system, freedom,
свободой, насилием
violence, and their place within the system.
внутри системы. Я благодарю вас за то, что
I thank you for being with us today, for everyone's contributions,
за то, что каждый внес
their
свой
stories,
вклад,
their feelings.
свою историю, свои чувства.
There have been so many
свои
feelings,
чувства,
sighs, tears,
вздохов, слез,
and processes that you have lived through here today.
прожили.
Thank
Благодарю
you.
вас.
You know, it's especially unexpected and valuable to me that I saw my former coworker at one point. Lena Poltorotsky, come here. Thank you so much.
You're so cool.
At the time, I was working at an online movie theater at the time, and I came in there as an account director. At the time I got there, there was a chain of events such that practically the entire department left. I came in there with a promotion and a number of functions I didn't know as a supervisor. I had to learn in the moment, rebuild the team. And so Lena is the person who really served there. She traveled to work from Tver to Moscow by 8 a.m. every day. And you were always dependable. And Lena was the person I was able to lean on at that time, among others, who didn't leave and who supported functions and even took on extra work when there were no people. Physically, no one to do a particular job. I remember everything, and I'm very grateful to you.